This is James Bullock of WarriorSciences.com, and today we're going to talk about striking from common positions. Now, the big thing about this series of videos that we're going to do is it's going to be from common positions, meaning I'm not putting you in a defensive posture. It's one of those, because you do not know when you could be assaulted, attacked, or anything. You need to be able to move in basic ways to protect yourself regardless of how you're positioned. For example, what we're going to talk about today is good old heavy bag here is my opponent. So I'm just going to stand with it off to my right. So my hand is here. It's one of those things where we're going to cover strikes that I can do from here. And the first one that comes to mind for me, if he's this far away, let's say this is the distance, so my hand can impact, not quite my forearm. So this is what I would consider the furthest distance of already being in contact. So from right here, if I'm walking, standing, talking to somebody or something like that, all I have to do is take my fist, I'm going to start at head level, and just turn and hit. That's it. I know it seems ridiculously simple, but it is. Wherever your hand is, if you're standing like this or anything like that, it's just there. It's one of those things where if you don't have time and you just catch something out of the corner of your eye, I'm not telling you to rotate your hips and turn that back foot 45 degrees. Make sure that your weight distribution, shifts, like an expert, be a ninja. I'm not telling you any of these things. This is not an exact science. Now, I'm choosing to go to the head. Obviously, that's a little bit further away than, let's say, his groin was there. Now, hitting someone in the groin, you have about a 50-50 chance of doing any major damage. Adrenaline can stop that kind of pain. I would just as soon you kick them in the knee. There's no ignoring a busted knee. If your first shot is there, that's fine. I'm trying to get in my car, all of a sudden I see something, and I hit him in the groin or lower stomach or whatever, fine. But I hope you do something else. I hope you hit him and then hit him with something else after that. Point A, point B. It doesn't matter if it's the head, doesn't matter if it's the solar plexus, chest area, or whatever. A principle to keep in mind on this is closest weapon, closest target. If he's about this far away, I need to go with the closest thing, which is going to be my right hand. It is a legitimate weapon. So whether it's the closest target available to me because they're leaning in or what have you is their head, then that's where I go. I turn, and I just hit. And I just swing for the fences. It's not one of those things where I'm trying to do some retraction strike or something. You're just going to hit the guy and go right through it. Now, if you're at your office, you're at home or whatever, and you have something available, like you have books in your hand or something, by all means, educate him with those books thoroughly by introducing him to them. So, closest weapon, closest target is extremely important. So, we've got hammer fist. Okay? You could also just use an open palm. Just turn your hand and just hit. Don't rear back and you go like this. Just from here. Females, you're going to find that it's going to take some practice, some legitimate practice, to take the impact on your hand because you're going to feel it in your wrist. Even some guys are going to feel that. So it's one of those things where you may not feel comfortable. You may have a limitation physically that you can't rotate your shoulder a certain way. Let's say you have a bad shoulder. You're like, well, that's out. Then fine, then what can you do? Think about it. You're standing this way. You're reaching for something. If you can't turn like this because you have an issue, then what can you do? If my arm's in a sling because I broke my arm, there's somebody on that side, and I know I can't like ram him with it or whatever because let's say I had shoulder surgery. So I need to think of something else. I gotta be able to keep that tight to me and possibly use my other hand. Now, if I'm a tad bit closer, or I should say they're a tad bit closer to me, forearm, same thing. Hit with the forearm, you can hit with the forearm and the ribs. I wouldn't necessarily drop my level to hit here unless that was really a good idea because they were going for your head or something like that. As you get closer, it goes from hand, forearm, elbow, body. And you might be thinking, well, what am I going to do with my body? Create distance. do a quick jolt, shove them for a second. So if my elbow's here, this is nothing special. Just take your elbow and hit to the side. Okay, notice I'm not putting any body English in it or anything. Depending on your weight and everything else in the situation, yes, you're gonna step into it. But if you can, if I actually thought it was a situation, let your feet go. By that I mean move. After you do that, you can play around with maybe something else, a palm strike. You need to have some target acquisition. You need to have some accuracy. You can't just watch a video and be like, oh, I just need to take my palm and go to the face. I got it now, I got it. No, you don't. You don't have it. You have to actually do it some. So even if it's just a handful of times. And the same thing applies if I go on the left side. If you're right-handed, you have a left side that's retarded. If you're left-handed, you have a right side that's retarded most likely. Be ambidextrous as much as you can be. Obviously, since if you're right-handed and that's what you use, you know, to open your car or reach for a door or what have you, then that hand may be occupied. But it doesn't matter. Whatever you have in your hand makes a nice weapon. So that's it for today. All the time. So how do you deal with yourself in those situations? Do you actively try to de-escalate? Do you actively control how you are dealing with the person standing in front of you, especially if they get this close? This is not comfortable. I guarantee Jesse is not comfortable standing this close to me right now.